Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. That's actually not true. Let me start over.
Why would you say that?
I don't know why I would say that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I am Julian Mush. I'm joined by Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
And a special guest, absolutely special guest from the DVR Podcast Network, Axel. How are you?
Man, this is a dream come true. You know, I've been listening to your podcast for a long-ass time. Since back in the day, I found you from Game of Thrones when you were covering Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Game of Thrones again today, a little bit.
Thank you for having me. I know I bothered you. I was like, I want to come on. So you finally let me come on. I get to talk to Jeremy. I get to talk to you. I get to talk news and stuff. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
No, hey, it's our pleasure, and you weren't bothering me at all. I've been meaning to get you on the show for what feels like forever, so it was overdue, I feel like. So welcome to the show. Thank you very much. You actually already did the little intro, which is to say that we're going to be covering the latest in film and television news today, and I can't wait because there's actually a lot to talk about, some really exciting stuff. We're going to be talking about the Emmys. We're going to be talking about everything that came out of D23. There's actually some really crazy. I was shocked by the stuff that came out of D23. And then we're going to do an agree or disagree segment. I know everyone's favorite segment is agree or disagree, so we're going to do that. And then we'll do a little bit of what we've been watching, and then we'll get the hell out of here. So stay tuned for all that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, I will just remind everyone, if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. That's BABBLE. And on Facebook, facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. And if you want to help support the show, head over to patreon.com/Tower Babblecast, where we do an exclusive film club every single month. And this month we're doing the Michael Bay classic, The Rock. So look forward to that. Very excited. And last month, Jeremy, we did... Tell the folks at home what we did last month.
We did
Swingers.
Was it? Oh, Swingers. Okay.
Yeah, Swingers.
I was gonna say Boondock Saints for a second there, but yeah, Swingers.
It's just because you can't stop thinking about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We did Swingers, and that was a really fun one. So I would say if you are a fan of that film, or really, you know, maybe we can rattle off a couple of my favorites. Days of Thunder, absolute brilliant movie. I can't stress enough how much I love Days of Thunder. So we did that one. That one's almost over a year ago. Another Jeremy pick.
Really, you can't stress enough how much you love Tom Cruise.
I love that movie. Yeah. The
Tom
Rocketeer.
Cruise.
Yeah. Well, every Tom Cruise movie. The Rocketeer. The very first one was Jurassic Park. I wouldn't listen to that one. But there's tons of good stuff in there. So again, we'll be doing The Rock this month. So stay tuned for that. Axel, do you have a cult favorite film that you would want to do as a part of something like that?
A cult favorite film. Does it have to be any specific genre or just in general?
It's just like a movie that you dig that you might want to show to people,
revisit,
and have a conversation about it or something.
Gosh, man, I try to think of one that's more fun, but they've kind of all been done before.
Hey, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
I'm never good at this.
We're just looking for ideas for our picks, really.
That's great. Thank you, Jeremy.
We're putting you on the spot here.
I'm so bad at that because I always think of the most obvious, or like my favorites, like Primer or something. I'll always say
that's a perfect example. It's totally fine.
So wait, Primer.
Yeah,
I've never heard of this film.
Ooh.
What is this?
Oh, it's a fantastic film. Give a mild spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it going in that it was about this, and I still enjoyed it a lot, even the first time. It is a time travel film that was made by a guy named Shane Carruth for about $7,000 in Austin, Texas. I don't know, what year was it? 2003 or 4 or something?
A little indie time travel movie. I love that. That's great.
In my opinion, probably the smartest time travel movie. I mean, it's fantastic, and you have to watch it multiple times to really understand what's going on because there's a good chunk of the plot that just doesn't take place on camera. And you can talk about it, but you have to piece it together, and that's part of it's definitely a puzzle movie. If you enjoy the better seasons of Westworld, like 1 and 2, which I thought had more of kind of a puzzle feel to them, then Primer is really for you. It's very low budget, but it's very well done. Unfortunately, the guy Shane Carruth, he only directed one other film than that called Upstream Color, which is also fantastic and weird. But he hasn't directed another film, and he's recently been not doing some not such cool shit.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he's kind of taken a turn for the worse, but the film still remains as an amazing film.
Yes, the old separate the actor or sort of the artist from the art problem.
Artists are such fucked up people. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to watch anything ever.
Yes, I 100% agree with you.
Except for Tom Cruise movies.
Well, no, I especially Tom Cruise movies, I would say. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I guess the Scientology people kind of get a pass because people think it's weird. But
is that why they get a pass?
I don't know. I mean, they do. Just like Elizabeth Moss, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Handmaids. People are always like touting what a great actress or what a great person she is. And then they're like, what do you think about Scientology? And she's like, I don't want to talk about that shit.
That's fair. Speaking of Elizabeth Moss, by the way, they're the 6th and final season of Handmaid's Tale. I think, are they going into season 6 now, or are they going to season 5?
No, this is. Oh gosh, I can't even remember. I think this is 5.
Yeah, and so the 6th season is going to be the last season. They announced that.
Yes. Yeah.
I fell off after midway through season 2, where I was like, I don't think I can continue to hang out in this world. It's much too depressing for me. So I don't know, Axel, have you kept up with that show at all?
I have. I actually watched the premiere episode, and I'm doing a podcast about it. It's called Resisting Gilead with my good friend Gina.
Okay, awesome. And
Friday.
What did you think of it? Is it still going strong, or where does it sit these days?
Let me put it this way. I really enjoy the show. I think it's really well made and well written and just the production values. It's really great. It's gotten more interesting. I feel they've really advanced the story. And I was really impressed with the first episode, but the show's not for everyone. And if you didn't want to it doesn't get any better is what I'm trying to say.
Glowing praise.
Yeah, there's no fucking rainbows and unicorns in this show. It's terrible, and it continues to be terrible. I mean, the world that it inhabits.
Right. Well, hey, that show, Handmaid's Tale, kind of owns a very specific kind of place in the television landscape where it feels a little too real and it's a little too dark, and I think some people really like that, and I really did for the first season, but I just can't sustain it. I especially loved how much Canada played a large role in it, and as a Canadian, that obviously tickles me a little bit. But I assume it only plays a larger role as the show continues. But
definitely,
yeah. So anyway, I think my girlfriend really wants me to get back into it so she can continue watching this season. So I might rewatch and catch up, and if that's the case, then I'll report back on my feelings on the later seasons as we get into it.
I think you'll enjoy it. Just don't expect it to be happy in any way.
Right. Okay. Got it. Understood.
There is some cool mythological stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. The world building stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That stuff does get more interesting in the show. They expand on it.
Yeah, and I always did like that element. I felt like the first season was very. It didn't like to touch on Gilead as an idea and like what that meant. Too much, and I think that was a shame, but season 2 expanded on that more. If it continues to do that, then I think I would probably be in for more. Fair enough. Okay, let's move on a little bit here, and let's talk about film like we typically do. And we'll start with a fun story because Top Gun Maverick continues to defy all odds and be the biggest movie in the world seemingly every week. I mean, right now, it's tough because the movies out right now are not... There's not a lot of competition. So despite the fact that the movie's been out for a very long time, it's still doing very well. And deservedly so, because the movie's very good. I guess before I kind of touch on the story itself, Axel, your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick? What did you think of that movie?
Oh man, it was so much fun. It was supremely dumb, and I can't say that I was in any way really kind of suspended the disbelief as
Sure.
far as the characters go and the whole Goose and Maverick and Rooster. It's funny just saying those names. But man, was it fun. It was great. I love Tom Cruise. I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. I love the dude. I watch anything. I've seen every single film he's ever done, except that one where he was in a musical. You remember that one?
No, I don't love musicals. So if Tom Cruise has been in a musical, I don't want to ruin my... Because I'm also a big Tom Cruise fan. I don't really want to ruin my feelings on Tom Cruise. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. That's why I haven't watched it. The best runner ever in film, Tom Cruise, as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Running. Yep.
I don't think Jeremy would disagree.
I wouldn't.
But the movie is the camera work inside the jets and everything, and outside. It was stunning. I loved it.
I totally agree. Jeremy and I both absolutely love this movie, and again, it's doing great. I don't think anyone predicted it being the number one movie of the year, but here we are. It will be on Paramount Plus. If you somehow are listening and haven't seen this movie, it's going to be on Paramount Plus by the end of the year, by the end of 2022, according to the Paramount CEO. And by the way, the headline did include his name, but I don't talk about CEOs of film studios unless it's Bob Chapek or
David
Zaslav. And that's just because I don't really want to know about these people. You know, they come and go. I just want to know about the work. You know what I'm saying?
Have you seen the ad that Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie did for consumer TVs at home?
No.
You haven't? Oh man,
I saw
it's
it
crazy.
On the biplane. You mean that thing?
Oh yeah, there's that one too. Yeah, there's one where they're just standing and they're talking about how some sort of feature on HD televisions are kind of ruining the experience.
Motion smooth.
Yeah. And they just go in this whole conversation on why it can affect the film in a negative way.
Yeah, they're right about that.
I love that they did that. Motion smoothing is a scourge on this planet, and it should be eliminated from all. I don't even know why it's a feature, to be honest.
You need to watch the ad. It's just so funny how seriously they're taking it. As well.
I just recently got a 4K big 75-inch TV from Costco, of course. Best place to get a TV.
Sure.
And I was introduced to the world of the modern TVs and how many different sound variations and picture variations. And I've got to be honest with you, I think in the end, the reason why these all exist is because that thin-ass little computer screen sucks. And if we had stayed, the big boxes are better. Tube televisions are better. I really think so. I think that the quality, it's like listening to, these new sound bars as opposed to old ass speakers coming through a receiver. It always sounds better.
Sure.
I think that it's tough, man. The motion smoothing, even if you take it off, it comes back on.
Well, the thing with motion smoothing is you turn it off, and then there's other side effects to that, which other things might not look as good, for instance.
Okay, well, in the ad, they have a step-by-step procedure that they let the audience know.
I love that.
On how to bypass it and figure it out. And it's quite awesome.
Let me ask you this question, guys. I'm sorry to go off on this. I know
No, please.
talk about it here. It's your show. Fuck it. Do you find on your whatever device you're using, like I have a Roku, I have a Fire Stick, and I have apps through the TV. I have an Xbox too, right? A PS4. That my TV senses, and like especially if like Disney Plus comes up, it automatically changes to a different setting for Disney Plus or Netflix, or like the actual the app sends a signal to your television to change it to like director mode or this mode.
Really?
You have that?
So no, I'll say let's tell a short story about my TV because I love my TV, and so I have a LG C8 65-inch OLED television.
C3PO R2D2.
Is awesome.
Listen, say what you want. Make fun of me. I spent a lot of money on this TV. I spent $5,000 on that TV when I bought it, and every time I look at it, and there's an HDR image of whether I'm watching, Amazon, the new Lord of the Rings show, or I think Disney Plus does HDR really well. It absolutely pops. It's gorgeous to look at, and I spent a lot of time dialing in what the right settings should be for that TV. The only thing that annoys me with it is that my PlayStation 5 will turn on or off my television when I turn on or off my PlayStation 5.
That's the same thing with my TV.
I don't like that.
I'll turn it on. The PlayStation turns on, and it's the only thing. The Xbox doesn't do it. The Roku,
Yeah, and the thing with the PlayStation is the PS5. It sounds like a jet engine taking off. It's so loud. So I was like, listen, this wouldn't bother me if it.
PS5 is loud. I thought it was quiet.
No, it is not quiet. Mine is loud anyway. I don't know. Maybe I need to return it. I don't know. But I don't. That's my biggest gripe. I actually, here's the thing I have been looking at for talking about TVs. I have been very interested in the short throw laser projectors. Have you guys seen any of these?
No.
So it looks like a bookshelf, a little or a TV stand that you would put your television on. But instead, it is in and of itself is a projector, and it's designed to be a short throw, so you don't have to attach it to the ceiling across the room. You just put it a couple inches from the wall, and it projects as 100 or 120, 100 depends on how big you want it. The short throw ones don't get as big as the standard kind of more traditional projectors, but it really kind of shrinks everything back down, and you get this, and it's laser projection. So instead of like a bulb, which is primarily white light, it is there's 3 individual lasers that are projecting in the RGB spectrum, and you get full HDR, you get deeper blacks. You pair it with one of these theatrical screens that refract light, so it rejects additional light coming up against it, and it's like having a massive television for half the cost. So that's what I've been really interested in lately. I don't know. That's my pitch on new technology for televisions. 3D, thing of the past. It's all about laser projection now.
Well, my son wants us to get VR, so that might be the next thing.
Jeremy wants to get VR.
Yeah,
play one
the
game.
price by $100.
Yeah.
But Jeremy wants to get VR for porno. That's not what my son wants.
Are you sure that's not what your son wants?
Very immersive.
That's true.
He's only 10. I hope. Well, who knows?
You never know. Okay, so let's move on quickly here. Speaking of great films that defy the odds, let's talk about Rian Johnson's Netflix exclusive film where he got paid how much money for it? $100 million, I think, to make this one movie. Knives Out, the sequel to Knives Out, which is Glass Onion. And I got to be honest, guys. I know, Jeremy, you fell asleep in the first movie, but I think that's just because you had smoked too much weed. Glass Onion looks like an absolute blast. People who've seen it said it's better than the original. I'm skeptical on that. But generally speaking, I love the trailer. I thought it was and like really fun to watch. It looks like it's a very much a sequel to that movie. It has that same feel as an Agatha Christie mystery. God, I love Daniel Craig and his outfits. You know, the cast is killer. Dave Bautista looks like he's doing some really fun work here. Obviously, Edward Norton's a really big name attached. You don't really see a lot of him in the trailer, but you do get to see a little taste of everybody. Axel, as you're the guest, what did you think of the trailer for Glass Onion? Are you excited for this movie?
I'm super excited, man. I love Ryan Johnson. I love this guy. He has been a filmmaker that I have loved since he first came on the scene.
Looper.
Amazing. I love Looper. All his films are great. I thought he did the best Star Wars too. Of that.
Thank you, Jeremy. See, we're in great company here, Jeremy. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think this is great. You know what the weird thing is, though, is I'm wary though because this is coming out. There's another movie that David O. Russell did called Amsterdam with Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Anna Taylor-Joy, Taylor Swift is in it.
What? She's a musician.
I know. It's crazy. And then there's another movie called See How They Run with Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan. If I'm Irish, I should know how to pronounce that.
Right.
And Adrian Brody. And they're all the same murder mystery because these two movies were copying Knives Out, right?
Right.
And now they're all coming out at the same time. So it's interesting to me to see which one kind of gets the best reviews. And it's not. And See How They Run is directed by Tom George, who did what else did Tom George do? Madness in the Allies, Enemy Lines he did too.
Behind Enemy Lines?
David O. Russell is, I think, a little bit of a bigger director than Tom George. But still, that's a lot of murder mystery shit. And also the other thing, Murders in the Building.
Oh, I love that show. I absolutely love Only Murders in the Building.
I'm a fan of this genre, but I wish that the Sherlock Holmes at this point wasn't what it was, and they kind of made a better. Well, I guess Netflix has the Enola Holmes, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It's funny you mentioned Sherlock. I mean, I know they talked about potentially doing another Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movie. I liked those movies, quite a bit actually. But aren't these all just aping what makes Sherlock exciting? What is it about Sherlock specifically that would be better than what we're already getting from See How They Run or Only Murders or Glass Onion or even the Agatha Christie ones with which I probably are done now, but the Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, like those are all of that same ilk. What would Sherlock bring to it other than the name? I don't know.
I agree with you on that. I mean, there already was the TV show too.
Jeremy, like you said, you haven't seen the trailer. We've touched on this a little bit on the show already, but what are you, if you are excited for a Knives Out sequel, why? Or why not?
I was just interested in the fact that they greenlit it and like Daniel Craig's payday is like, wasn't like $100 million or something for like 2 more movies?
Yes, yeah, it's
something astronomical. And like you guys already talked about about Ryan Johnson, obviously a huge fan. So anything he's a part of, I can dig for sure.
Anyway, that's just to say that it's coming out this holiday season, I believe. So keep our eyes out for that. We'll definitely be reviewing that on the show. Moving on, National Cinema Day was a big success. I actually didn't know about this until after the fact, but there was on the long weekend, on the Labor Day long weekend, they did National Cinema Day. $3 movie tickets was quite a big success, apparently. I'm not going to reveal the numbers because A, I don't have them, and B, it's not that exciting to talk about the numbers. I'm just going to say something and you're going to forget what I said anyway. So I'll just say that when I was listening to the Filmcast folks, who of course I'm a big fan of, talked about on the show before, they made an allusion to the fact that it's kind of like the free comic book day that the comic book industry started, and that turned out to be a big success. And they've done that over year over year, and have done like special events for that. The hope that I think, and I agree with this sentiment, so I'm just really repeating it here, which is that if this continues to be a success, that film studios start doing interesting, fun, kind of one-off things for National Film Day, or Cinema Day. Sorry, and it makes it into kind of like a holiday for film buffs. Do you guys have any thoughts on National Cinema Day?
I would say that what you're wishing, I just feel like it's just too much effort for these people to
right
to go ahead and do what you want there. But would be nice for sure. I thought when you mentioned it, I thought it was we just watched Martin Scorsese movies that day. And I thought that's kind of what that was about. But.
That's all you need. That's all you need to do is watch Martin Scorsese movies. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so let me just continue on a little bit here. Let's get into the D23 stuff, because I think this is really where we're getting the most fun stories this week. So, of course, D23, this is like the Disney Comic-Con. So it kind of gets it steals a little bit from Star Wars Day, and it steals from Star Wars the Star Wars Expo, and it steals a little bit from Comic-Con, and kind of has its own little reveals so they can do their own thing. But it also has all the other Disney stuff that wouldn't normally be at those other things, including things about the parks and all that other stuff that I personally don't care about because I've never been to any of those parks. But there was some Marvel stuff. We'll talk about that. There was some Star Wars stuff. We'll talk about that. And there was some just general Disney stuff, and we'll talk about that as well. But I guess before we get into it, or we break it down kind of one at a time, Axel, is there anything that jumps out at you from D23 that you would want to talk about first?
Not that I can particularly remember. There's so much stuff these days, and I have to say that just recently, I've been thinking to myself, gosh, I'll think more about things when they come out, because there's so many things that are announced, and things come on you so fast. But as you mention things, I think I'm probably going to be like, "Oh, that's awesome!"
Right, Jeremy, is there anything that jumps out at you as being the biggest news out of D23?
I can't really think of any. I thought Fantastic Four cast was to be announced at this event, but that didn't happen.
Turns out that's not the case. They just confirmed that Matt Shakman will be directing. And that's it.
Well, he was in the crowd.
Yeah. So let me start going through these kind of things item by item. We'll start with Marvel. I'll be reading a little bit from the Deadline recap article here, so if it sounds like I'm reading, that's why. So we'll start with, we already mentioned Fantastic Four. We'll talk about Captain America New World Order. They revealed that Tim Blake Nelson has joined the cast. Of course, Tim Blake Nelson, last time seen in the MCU in The Incredible Hulk as the leader, right? And so he's going to be returning to the MCU. Lots of classic Incredible Hulk stuff obviously being referenced lately with She-Hulk on television right now. And it'll be starring obviously alongside Anthony Mackie, who's going to be the lead of that film. I know I've been watching a lot of like recaps and whatnot from She-Hulk, and they talk about the leader in some of these things, and they show me the scene from that movie where Tim Blake Nelson's head starts to expand, and it looks really stupid. It actually reminds me a lot of the character, that really dumb villain character from the Green Lantern film. Jeremy, remember that? And his like that dumb look that they had for him. So, do you guys have any attachment to this character at all? The leader from, as a Hulk villain, or Tim Blake Nelson as an actor, or to the Incredible Hulk film and him coming back to the MCU has any excitement at all for you? Either of you guys? I'll take that as a no.
Well, I mean, it's what Marvel does best. They can reinvent and redo and kind of pull from the past, and it gets incorporated into the huge tapestry, and they look great for doing it. I mean, what's his name? Tim or Eli Roth or Tim Roth is back as Abomination.
Yep.
That's been a long time since that movie, so there's connective tissue there. So yeah, I just think it's cool when they can, and that actor's, what was his name? I think he's
Tim Blake
pretty good, right?
Nelson. Yeah.
He's a cool actor.
Yeah, he's a great.
Um,
He's a great. He's a
it's
great
like-
actor.
And it's like,
Yeah.
sorry, jumping ahead to the Secret Invasion show and the like the lead actor they have for
Ooh,
that,
yeah.
like not Sam Jackson, but that other Ben
Uh,
Mendelsohn, right?
Ben
Is that his name?
Mendelsohn. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like what a phenomenal actor that gets to play in like these cool little Marvel worlds, or the Marvel world, the MCU. So
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second, because I thought the trailer for Secret Invasion was so cool.
Mhm.
And I just think that, there's a couple trailers that we got from D23. That was one of them. Werewolf by Night was another one. And both of these shows have obviously one is obviously a special. It's not really a show. But what's super fascinating to me about Secret Invasion is this completely different tone. Of course, the tone is very similar to Andor, which of course is another thing that's coming from Disney right around the same time. But that's not the point. The point is that this is in the Marvel universe, and it's their version of that same idea, which is espionage. It feels more weighty. Obviously, Sam Jackson being back involved. Ben Mendelsohn, you
we've
mentioned.
had this kind of a similar tone in Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in the sequel to Captain America when the Russo brothers
But
first
not
came
as-
into play.
it does seem maybe, I mean, at least with Andor, who knows until the Secret Invasion show comes out. But Andor does, and they've been talking about it being more adult. Like this,
Yeah.
they've been saying this is really the first Disney Plus adult show for Star Wars, because I
Yep.
think you could say WandaVision was a pretty adult show. I mean,
Mhm.
it had its comic booky stuff and its all ages appeal, but at the heart of it, I think the concept in itself too was rather adult, right? And it was emotional and had some depth to it. But this seems to be going for something like more of like the Winter Soldier movie, and that part of Captain America. I always think like Marvel does. It's like they said, which movie was it when he said it's either aliens, secret agents,
right, or wizards or whatever. Yeah.
wizards, right? And I always think about it that way, and I like when they do secret agent. That's one of my favorite things that they do. Actually, I think I like space and secret agent. The wizard stuff, I'm getting a little,
Sure.
because I really love the last. You're catching me on an upswing, or else I might be not as kind of forgiving for some of this stuff, because I liked the Thor movie, and I think She-Hulk is kind of fun.
I love She-Hulk. We were just talking about that last week on the podcast, and I that most recent episode, that brings in that drunk girl as the kind of like special guest.
Yes.
Holy crap, she's hilarious.
Great at humor, Marvel too, and that's why it's like lean into it. I think they're experimenting with tone more now. They pushed out a lot of shows quickly because they had to, because they were starting a fucking streaming service, right? And I keep on. You guys curse, right? I can curse, can I?
Oh yeah, swear away. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I am from New Jersey. But now I think that they're settling back a little bit and really, they've had some highs and lows, on both the Star Wars and the Marvel stuff. So I like I like this trying different. She-Hulk is very funny and silly, but man, am I wrong? Do you guys both agree? The CGI is like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It's not great. The worst part I feel like is like, and I don't know if this is just how I'm like maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but it's it's not so much her face and how she moves. It's that she's wearing, it looks like CG clothes. And it's like, could we not have just put a body double in with like who's wearing the clothes or something? You know, I feel like that's the biggest problem. That it looks like, and I know texture and fabric is hard to do in CGI, but it is, it's not great. Good thing, the best thing is that it's very funny, and the cameos are great, and I can kind of like look past that stuff because, you know, if the show wasn't as good from a creative standpoint, it would be much harder to forgive. Okay, so what's the next thing? I guess talking about Marvel some more. Thunderbolts. We got the Thunderbolts lineup. It's going to have Yelena. It's going to have sorry?
Miss Flo.
That's right. We're going to have U.S. Agent, Taskmaster, the Winter Soldier, the guy David Harbour plays. I don't remember his character's name. And and the girl from Ant-Man 2, which I also remember her character's name.
Super exciting. Who needs the X-Men?
Well, Jeremy, that's really funny. But I mean, here's the thing. I think the fact is we're getting the X-Men over these next two phases in kind of like a drip feed, right? We got that tease in
very minimal.
You think?
I think well, we had the conversation about the X-Men 97 and that kind of filling the void. Like they're bringing as many people as they can back from the original, cartoon. So that's where X-Men's going to be. And then, you'll get, what was it in She-Hulk? Like a little ad.
It was a reference to Wolverine. It said that a man with metal claws gets in bar fight, which is, of course, reference to X-Men 1, which is kind of cool, right?
Not that exciting.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, a headline in a show is not exciting. A casting a new Wolverine, that would be very exciting. Whoever that might be. But Axel, do you have any thoughts on who that might be?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wolverine? Well, the word on the street is that it's Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton, yeah.
Yeah, who I think would be a fantastic choice because he was just.
He's short.
He is short, but all actors are short.
Yes,
except for Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman is not that. How tall is Hugh Jackman?
He's like 6-something, is he not?
He's definitely 6-something.
I don't know.
That's the one, like the kind of change he brought to the Wolverine character was he wasn't like this super short.
How tall are you?
I'm 6 feet, I think.
He thinks.
Pretty sure.
Say how tall you are.
It's best not to say online. You know, you don't want to give too much away.
He's a 5'4", 5'5".
That's not true. That is not true. I'm also not going to reveal how tall I am, but it is taller than what Jeremy just said.
How tall is Jeremy?
I think he's fair.
6'1", you know.
Okay.
I don't think that's true.
Well,
we're not going to solve this now, but I will say that
I'm going to say I'm 6'4", so everyone is short to me.
Oh, well, that's fair. So we're all shorter than you, so congratulations.
Yeah.
What's it like? What's the weather like up there?
It's not good, man. Trust me. Your knees are probably in much better shape than mine are. You know.
That's probably true.
I'm carrying a lot of weight, and when I fall, it's a long way down.
They say the bigger they are, harder they fall.
Either way, X-Men is very far away.
Yeah, that's.
And with Secret Invasion being a thing, and with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield potentially coming back, I think and Professor X already came back for Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's to say they're not going to revisit the X-Men as we know already from Fox one last time, and then do a new X-Men?
I think that is I think you hit the nail on the head there too, because you get that IP tie-in. They can push the movies that they have now on the service, right? And you kind of get a little bit of money made from the back too, all the way up to the new thing.
And my boy James Marsden's better come back in there. You know, I know he's dead technically, but
they kind of did that with X-Men too, didn't they? Right, when they did
Yeah.
the Future Past, and
They did.
right, they brought everybody back.
Well, now they can just pull from the perfect X-Men timeline where the team is intact.
Right, which is the end of Days of Future Past, and we pretend nothing happened. That Dark Phoenix thing never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. First Class, not sure what you mean.
different,
Yeah.
multiverse or whatever, which is okay. I mean, look, I've been listening to you guys long. You all are comic book fans. You know the truth about all these comics. They're all fucked up. They've got a million different fucking stories. They die, they come back, they're
Yeah.
old, they're witches, they're ghosts, they're space alien, right? Like comic books are like soap operas.
Yes.
So that never bothers me. It's just I just want to see a good thing, right?
The
Like-
story has to be good, right?
Exactly. So to me, whenever any of these things are announced, I'll watch a trailer or something. I say, okay, is this particular one a good story? Does this and I think that Marvel has done a decent job of experimenting enough, I think. And I think that they had a little, I don't think anybody was a huge fan of the Rob Stark and Jon Snow and Cersei, who are the Eternals.
Sure.
That was, but this stuff, it looks like
Hey,
That
hey,
was,
hold on. Let me just say I did like that movie.
we have a
Actually,
defender here.
I did like that movie. To be
I
fair,
didn't think, you know what? It didn't bother. It took me 3 sittings to get through it,
glowing praise.
but it wasn't like terrible, right? Like I kind of enjoyed it, but I felt like it just kept on kind of going on. And
It just kept going. I'm like, I want it to end. Why isn't it ending?
What are we doing here?
I mean, it's hit or miss. I think with a lot of these now.
It's just it's hard to find that reason to care, right? With the
Yes.
streaming wars and content being thrown out there, it's we can see the minefield sometimes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good way. That's a good way of putting it. But you know what, though, fellas, when you think back on the first 10 years or whatever of those Marvel movies, everyone praises them so much, but there's a lot of stinkers in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, there's a couple.
there's also the comparison going back to the early Marvel movies in terms of cinematography and like the cinema quality and
How much
kind of
better it was.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of happening now, especially with like the new Thor movie coming out and kind of getting beat to death.
Well, yeah, people are. There's mixed reactions to that new Thor movie. I think it's largely
But
pretty
I
good,
think- I
but not.
think,
It's forgettable.
I think no matter what with the MCU and Kevin Feige just making all these decisions and keeping it going, just all this content is just so cool to have. A She-Hulk show,
Hmm.
the Ant-Man movies, all these Thor movies. Like it's just so cool that we have all this to tap into, go back to, extract from, continue, bring back old actors.
Yeah.
It's just cool no matter what.
I think it's hard. I feel like it's harder to keep track of everything that's going on. I think that's has in and of itself a little bit of a problem. It's like there's so many characters now, and there's so many different disparate storylines going on. How do you keep track of all these things? We used to talk about kind of more of the actual individual storylines going on in these movies, but I don't think we could now, even if we wanted to, because there's just too much.
We will be getting that, like the Daredevil, right? Like 18 episodes or something like that. Like they're gonna really focus on Daredevil throughout that first, rebirth of a show and character.
Hmm.
They're not gonna try to tie it into everything else going on around it, I'd imagine.
I also love that we get these shows week to week. And, this is a story from later on, but I'll just mention it now, which is that Netflix is reportedly looking to move away from the binge model to a weekly release model. And this is a favorite topic of ours on this show. It's like crack to me. I just love talking about it. But
Just bashing Netflix and separately the weekly streaming model.
no, I love
So
the
now
weekly
they're
streaming
coming
model.
to a head.
Hate the binge. Hate the binge model. Yeah.
You know what? I have to kind of agree with you. I'm not against. I'll tell you what. I'm not against the sporadic episode, like number of episodes. Like, hey, to start the season, we're going to drop 2 or 3 episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, we're going to drop the last 2 episodes. Or,
Mm-hmm.
but I do agree that I think spreading it out. I mean, first of all, it never made sense to me because if you think of it from so they spend so much money when
Yep.
you talk about films, you talk about more than almost half of it is the marketing budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
International marketing budget. And a lot of that is TV, which everyone fast forward through the commercials, so why are they even doing it?
Mm-hmm.
They make a trailer, they put it on YouTube, and they could probably I was listening to Kevin Smith, our old friend from Jersey, did an interview on the business with Kim Masters, and he was saying that he thinks it's a total waste. All this marketing is a waste of money because you can use the internet. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that. And the movies ignore it. And so does Netflix and everyone doing the binge because
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you drop 1 episode of something, you have people like us who are willing to do this work for free, right? And
Yeah.
just talk about this shit that we love and go online and argue about could Batman kill super whatever or Westworld or Game of Thrones. There's no conversation when Netflix drops everything at
No.
once. The conversation dies. Everyone's like Stranger Things. That was cool, you know? And
Yeah, and that's the end of it.
yeah,
Hey, do you watch Stranger Things? Yep.
and you never
Cool.
know if you're spoiling someone because how many
I know.
episodes did they watch? What episode are you on? Oh, I'm on 5. I'm at 6.
And
Oh, you know.
good luck remembering what happened in episode 5 versus episode 6 versus episode 4. There's no way in the world you'll never be able to remember
That's
I mean, maybe that's just me, but that's another
But
problem.
that's the TV critic Alan Sepinwall, and there's a lot of other critics who kind of argue for the single episode, right?
Yeah.
Even when you're telling a serialized story, you can still have an episode have like singularly thematic elements to it that
Mhm.
don't cross over to the next episode, you know? And I think that you find that with the best shows, we can remember a single episode, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Julie. It's okay with me. I can wait too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think I got into a little bit of an internet spat, which of course I can't help. It just happens to me. I can't help
I
it.
love disagreeing.
I can't. I do. Thank you, Jeremy. I got into a little internet spat about this because I was reading the comments to this story, and then the people were like, "Oh, this is bullshit. I love binging TV, and if you wanna watch it week to week, well then just do that. Just watch one episode and watch the next one in a week from now." And I was like, it's completely backwards to the way that that seems to make sense to me, which is that if you really want to binge something, just wait till it's over, like the rest of us have done for forever, as long as TV's been around, and then watch it all. Right?
But it
the
does come with
DVD.
the caveat that you can't, freely go on social media, the internet, essentially, without running into spoilers or talk about it. So then you have the feeling of FOMO being left out. No one has the patience to set that up themselves once a week. I think it's just so easy once it's available. Okay, it's Thursday. Let's do it. She-Hulk time or whatever.
Right. But isn't
time.
Sorry, say that again, Axel.
I was just repeating what Jeremy said. She-Hulk time. That's good.
That's her catchphrase, I think, actually. But it's She-Hulk time, and she smashes something. Anyway, I just think it's like that. You mentioned, Jeremy, like the internet discourse. That's the most important bit for these people who make this show, especially one is like twisty as like Westworld, for instance. The week-to-week model is the only way to do it because otherwise there is no conversation. And,
no matter what, week-to-week means dollars in terms of longevity and getting the most out of your product. The issue now is with the content that they're choosing to make and how they create it, making it episodic. Maybe it's only 6 episodes like Obi-Wan, but then like they're almost forced to give you 2 episodes at once because
we're getting 3 for Andor.
Yeah, but like for Obi-Wan, if we just got the 1, it could sprout a different conversation on the series as a whole, and maybe not have as many legs. which then leads to the conversation of why does it need to be 6 episodes? Maybe that should have just been like a cool Obi-Wan Darth Vader movie that they release.
Yeah, I mean,
That's an
it's all comes down to the fact that we just refer to all this stuff as content now, and it doesn't really have its own. Like we can't. It's hard to classify some of these things. Like Obi-Wan should have been a movie. I think someone recut it into one. Said it was pretty good.
Look,
You know,
the whole thing has reversed. When I was a boy, I'm a little older than you folks.
I wish I had like a little harp sound effect to play. Yeah.
When I think about what I saw as a difference between film and television was television was a place where most everything was episodic because you barely knew what was going to be on. The TV guide was not always right, and you switched to a channel and you were basically, you channel surfed, right? And something grabbed you, and they wanted you to be able to watch a show without having to watch the one before it or after it, right?
Mm-hmm. The Marvel
commercials
model.
in between.
Yeah, now they want to suck you into everything and keep you for 6 episodes and then get you hooked into the story so you watch the prequel and the
Well, they need you to have the subscription. They need you to continue it and keep it, and not get rid of it.
So it's a different game, and I think that you look at films too. I mean, come on, it's just not. If you look at a list of the films that came out, like progressively from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s to now, all you see is the rise and rise and rise of only the blockbuster.
Yeah.
Or the small movie that's being. So, I mean, everything has changed, and it doesn't. A lot of the stuff we talk about, it still goes by these old rules. It's just like, Nielsen ratings, or what I mean. Like, I actually hear people quote, "That's number 5 on the Netflix list. That must be doing great." Netflix made up that list. That's just shit they want you to watch.
Yeah, man, that Netflix list is bullshit. I honestly, 95% of the shows on that list are shows that I will never in my life watch.
And nobody's watching them. They're just that's advertised. That's in-house advertising.
I will tell you, what's number 1 on the TV shows on Netflix right now? Cobra Kai, and that show is awesome. So, say what you will. It's not all bullshit.
I'm sure there is some crossover, but I don't know. I think there's. I just
I think you're probably right, Axel. To be honest, I think you're probably right.
Stuff, right? Whether it's a movie, TV, The only thing that surprised me, guys, since we're talking about this kind of like 5,000 foot view or whatever, is it's always surprised me that it hasn't gone the other way, where big streaming shows don't do road shows. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't the first episode of Game of House of the Dragon in theaters.
I see. This is. I think you're absolutely onto something, because in Toronto they aired the entire season of Obi-Wan and the season finale live in a theater, and then they had Deborah Chow show up.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I was like, that sounds great. Do I need to but it was exclusive to Toronto because they were doing this event that had the director there, right? So I think it's and the other thing is Lord of the Rings, and this is what pisses me off a little bit. There's this kind of general conversation about critics and how they relate to general audiences and all that kind of stuff. But most critics who watched Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, saw the first 2 episodes in theaters. Yeah. And that's bullshit, because I would love to see that movie in theaters. And that's why I want to buy a digital projector so I can watch these things at home and have a theatrical experience that are closest to one I can get, because it's a missed opportunity. These shows are so good looking. They're so intricately created. So much money and effort goes into. I mean, Rings of Power, the most expensive show ever made. But I would love to see those things on the big screen. I think it's a missed opportunity for sure, and especially considering theaters themselves are in dire straits, right? Like, they're not doing well. What would help get people butts in seats? these finales to these big shows, I think, or premieres even. I don't know. What do I know?
I think that's a great point you made about the Lord of the Rings. Jeremy? Did you watch that?
I have not. No.
Oh, Jeremy, come on.
There's something I thought about this, which is when I watched it on my TV at home, it looked really CGI, shiny. Not, it did not grab. I'm not a huge fan of that show.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I'm watching it, and I'm going to continue to watch it. But I think when you compare it to something to like House of the Dragon, I just don't think there's any comparison production wise. I think that House of the Dragon is such a higher level of production, and I mean they have the whole Game of Thrones series to lean on to get there. But I think that's why I think a lot of the early reviews, you caught that because I heard actually a reviewer say that. Where they're like, I think a lot of the good reviews are because a lot of the critics saw this in a theater, and then when they watch the successive episodes at home, they're not going to be as blown away because it just doesn't, when you see something on in the same way that the CIA or any Mossad, whatever, would lock someone in a room and use what do they call that? They just take away
sensory deprivation.
Exactly. Films is the opposite. It causes a chemical reaction in you. Your irises bug, and all that sound and that big picture. That's a chemical scientific thing that's happening to you when people are like, "Oh, that movie was great." So the same thing doesn't happen on a TV at home, right? Unless you get your kind of thing you want.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that people never really talk about when they talk about. I think I honestly have thought all my life that when you see a movie on it in a theater, it makes even like a bad movie, you can have fun with it and it can be better.
Yep.
And if you saw that on TV, you'd be like, that's not good.
I used to say that I liked every movie I've ever seen in the theater to some degree or not, right? It's like it was made. There was moments that were enjoyable, regardless of the movie was mostly bad. We've seen some pretty bad movies over the years, but I come out of a movie, even a movie I largely didn't like, and think, I had a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's when you get the two together, a great film that you see on a big screen, then that's when you reach that like nirvana, like, oh, you're like, holy cow, I'm transported,
Yeah, I think I watched the last Transformers movie in theaters, and that movie's very bad. Like so dumb, can't even. It's like it's hard to even understand what's going on. But hey, watching these robots transform is pretty cool, and the visuals are kind of neat. And at the end of the movie, I'm like, I'll never remember. I probably will never remember a single moment from this movie, but I will. But I know I watched it. That's it, and I probably enjoyed it coming out and thought, yeah, whatever. I didn't like that, but at least it was a good time. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. Okay, let's pick up on a couple more of these news stories here. I guess let's talk about one of the big ones. The new Little Mermaid, the teaser trailer for the live-action, quote-unquote live-action Little Mermaid. Getting a lot of buzz, mostly for the wrong reasons online, but...
what? That's shocking.
Yeah, what's the deal with that? How could that possibly happen?
See, you guys are in you're in nice Canada. I have to live down here in the violent, racist streets of America.
And so, Axel, what did you think of it? Initial
I don't give a
thoughts.
shit, it's the Little Mermaid. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think I am for diverse casting and switching things up and doing things differently. I mean, of course, there's the corporatization of it, right? Which
there's no reason for a live-action Little Mermaid. That's
right.
Yeah.
So in the end, it gets lost because it's just trying to make more money off people. So, but whatever. I mean, I don't know. They're doing like Tim Burton did like a live-action Dumbo or some shit. Didn't he? Like, what the hell is that guy doing?
Apparently, that one was actually not that bad. That's the funny thing about that whole thing. Yeah.
They just want to keep on raking it in, tell a different story, But I mean, I guess it's great. Little Mermaid. I never even saw the Little Mermaid.
Really great movie, but
I'm not a
I know
fan.
I don't know. For me, I heard someone mention this on another podcast, which was like, does anyone feel like any of these live action remakes are better than the original movie? And I think that's Jeremy, are you alive? Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
What does Jeremy think? I know he's a huge Little Mermaid fan.
Yeah, Jeremy, you big Mermaid man?
Merman.
Man, Bob.
No, I mean the Lion King and Aladdin, they crack $1 billion easy, so that's why it's happening.
I guess that's the cynical view.
He's right. That's why they're making them.
Yeah, I don't know. I really tapped out after the Lion King. I thought that movie was brutal, and yeah, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. That movie sucks. Like that live action remake of the Little Mermaid or of Lion King. And by the way, they're doing a live action prequel series called Mufasa: The Lion King that's set for 2024. So I can't abide, really. I don't know. I don't really. It's tough.
The kids like it's you know what? It's for kids and for people who are real. I mean, look, we all know there are people who go nuts for this shit, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, they have like they think Little Mermaid is like the best thing that was ever made, and they every time Disney opened the vault, they jumped right in.
Right.
They're like, give me that. Remember those big VHS like in the white
yes
cases?
Of course.
They have all of them on.
Worthless now.
Yeah.
Well, unless you have like the original like Star Wars cuts or whatever.
25 cents.
Please take these from me. I'll pay you money to take them.
Kids like this stuff. That's the same thing I forgot to say about the Star Wars and the Marvel stuff is, we're like adult men, right? And
like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's something kind of. I mean,
yeah,
are there
something like that.
Adult men anymore in this world? But this stuff is fun and everything. But also a lot of it, for me, I was very my story is I was very anti all of these type of movies, even though I grew up on comic books. Don't get me wrong. I used to go to the Holiday Inn every Saturday morning to comic conventions in my town, and
at the Holiday Inn, yeah, totally.
Hotel Motel Holiday Inn, off Route 22 in Union, New Jersey. But I kind of, I was like a film snob, and I just felt like I kind of agreed with Scorsese. This is like kind of trashola. Then my son, who's 10 now, kind of brought me back to it. And I said, I'm being an idiot. This is fun stuff. And I grew up in a lot of these characters. And then I realized, a lot of this, I thought the Thanos shit was good. And
sure.
All that kind of stuff. But there's an audience for everything now. They just keep on churning it out. So, like I say, I take everything like product by product, right?
Right.
Like each movie... Maybe one is good, the next one might not be good.
You got to judge it all on its own merits, right?
Each individual one. So I don't see it the way they want me to see it.
I think that's fair. And speaking of things from your childhood that are coming back to life, Indiana Jones 5 is a movie that's being made, starring Harrison Ford, of course.
4 planes on his way to work.
That's right. 41-year-old is the franchise, not Harrison Ford. He's much older than that.
141.
He did reveal that this will be the last time he plays the character. He says, quote, "I'm done. I will not fall down for you again." Fair enough. He literally can't play the character anymore. So, that's something. There will be some digital de-aging here. I would not be shocked. They did reveal a trailer. It was not put online. Jeremy, are you excited for Indy 5?
Sure.
Okay. Axel, do you have an attachment to the Indiana Jones films?
I mean, I love them, man. I saw all of them in the theater when they came out. the week they came out. You know, I love Indiana Jones. And oh, did you guys see the picture of him in Short Round together?
Yeah, I did. It's lovely. And he was
So
in everything, everywhere, all at once. And I thought he was great in that movie. I saw some people speculating that he should be the future of the franchise, that he should pick up the hat and become the next star of the Indiana Jones movies. And you know what? Why not? Why not?
who cares? I mean, as the way I feel about it is, man, Harrison Ford, he is so stoned all the time. You know, he's famous for being stoned, right? That's like his thing.
That's his thing.
Yeah,
Well, hey, then man after my own heart. I tell you what.
is his thing. It's really the truth. And he was a carpenter, before he would build houses and stuff like that. He did like remodeling. But why not do the cat? Will he do it again? I mean, he'll probably do it again. The last one, well, that was the one with Shia LaBeouf.
Crystal Skull, yeah.
He's chasing him, right? And then Indy went to a refrigerator to escape the nuclear blast.
Nuke the fridge, yeah.
It was kind of fun, but I've never watched it again. It was disappointing to me because they did my favorite thing, which is Aliens. But that part I liked. But the rest of the movie was not that great.
The movie's bad.
Who knows? Yeah. When you look back and you watch the original Indiana Jones, especially the first one, it is such an old school practical effects film. And if they return to that and more naturalistic shooting as well, I could enjoy it, but I doubt they will because it's like a bunch of 9-year-old dudes making a movie. They don't want to be out in the hot sun anymore, right?
Sure.
So
it's all done on the volume now.
Exactly. So, I mean, maybe it'll be good. Maybe my son will like it. I don't know. But whatever.
Well,
I think they are bringing the whole gang back together. It's going to be Nazis and all that shit again.
As it should be. As it should be. I would say that, whether or not Harrison Ford himself plays the character again, a digital recreation of him will certainly play the character again at some point in the future. Okay, just before we move off D23, I will mention a couple things that are related to Star Wars. So Lucasfilm was there, and they revealed a trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3. Have you guys all seen that?
No.
Oh, Jeremy.
I saw
killing me today.
I wasn't fully paying attention, but it was playing. I mean, I love that. That show is so fun for me. I think it's great.
The show is great, and it's the kind of their I would say their flagship show, right? It's what's keeping Star Wars alive in a lot of ways. It looks like more of the same. Looks like a lot more Mandalorians. We're gonna go to Mandalore. It's gonna be a great time. I'll break it down more on Small Screen Star Wars with Rachel, but I'm very excited for this. We got a final trailer for Andor. This is a show that we used to joke on the show that no one could possibly care about the character of Andor. Like who? And of course we were big Star Wars fans, so we were excited. But the more we've learned about the show, the closer we got to it, the more excited I am. And every trailer I see for the show makes it look like not only the most interesting Star Wars show that's probably going to be on TV, but also the best looking one. It looks absolutely stunning. The actors they got for the show are, beyond Diego Luna, but like there is so many great character actors on this show, and I just like, and it's like long. It's like 20 or 12 episodes, something like that, for the first season, and the second season is supposed to be a bunch of episodes too. This is back to like classic Star Wars movie making stuff, and I can't be more excited. Axel, are you stoked for Andor?
I guess that's a no.
I don't know. Axel, can you hear us okay? Oh, he's got to run. Jeremy, I know you talked about it. He'll be back in a second. Jeremy, I know you talked about it.
Andor looks cool for sure. I think the last trailer was a little bit too try hard with all the cuts and like the blaring music. I think it kind of just it's keeping with the expectations. I think you should be excited for it, but I think the last like 6 or 7 seconds of it is pretty cool. If I'm gonna nitpick the trailer itself,
Okay.
But yeah, interesting that it's so long. But exciting just to be in inside that world in like a practical kind of studio world. Obviously enhanced with some visual effects, but from the set leaks we've seen how big the set is, and I guess Obi-Wan used some of the set, so
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
The other thing that came out of D23, specifically around Star Wars, is we learned that the Bad Batch is moving from September to January. That's fine. It needs to fill up a gap. But Tales of the Jedi, Jeremy, I don't know if you saw this trailer, but this is a short form and animated anthology series from the same folks that make Bad Batch, made the Clone Wars, that kind of like really high quality animation. And they revealed a trailer for this. And not only did it look great, which is of course not surprising, but some of the choices for the stories that they've chosen to tell look like, I can't. This might be, after Andor, so it's like Andor, then probably Tales of the Jedi is the second thing that I'm like most excited about now in Star Wars, because they're choosing to show you young, more Qui-Gon, young Count Dooku with Qui-Gon as his Padawan. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know. Like, what more do I need to tell you?
These member berries don't sell you, I don't know what.
It's not member berries. We've never seen young. We've never seen young Qui-Gon, and we've never seen.
It's from the fruit. That's what that is.
I don't know. I don't think that's fair. I think these are. This is an actual thing.
It's more tied to the prequel trilogy, more exploration of it. That's what Obi-Wan was. That's why the actors came back. It's just cool that we get to see Count Dooku in a younger light, attached to and informing Qui-Gon Jinn.
Sure.
I just want more of that stuff. That's what that is. It's just cool that it's happening for sure.
There was a shot in. I get it, Jeremy. It's an anthology series that allows us to explore kind of interesting ideas in the Star Wars universe, I would say. But generally speaking, we're dealing with they're cherry picking interesting bits and pieces from the Star Wars universe to tell this story. And that's all I need to know. I mean, and plus you pair that with the great Lucasfilm animation that they're doing, and I can't speak highly enough about what this whole idea of a show I think is brilliant. It's really just an excuse to go back to the Clone Wars stuff, but that show's great too. So no complaints here. Jeremy Durant to the bathroom, so we'll just take a quick break here, Axel. I think that the feedback that we're getting is from your headset.
From my headset?
Yeah, because when you went to the bathroom, we didn't hear it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
So feedback, you mean that you can hear yourself?
I can hear myself, yeah.
Hello?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. So you can hold on a second. Okay.
Okay.
I can turn you down. I didn't really have you up very high.
Yeah. Okay. How about now?
I turned you all the way down, like there's barely anything coming.
Okay. Well, that's so weird because I'm still hearing the reverb, like, and it's not reverb in like the traditional sense. Like I'm hearing, it's like a digital echo.
Maybe it could be I'm using a
noise
USB
gate
to out my voice, to have my voice go out and come in through the mic.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that. But
is there? I mean, we're halfway through the episode, so it's like we could just continue to deal with it, or I don't know. Hello? I'm alone.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I don't hear myself anymore. Oh, wait, no, I still do.
Okay.
That's a lie.
Let me try. Hello.
Hey,
Can you hear me? Do you hear it now?
no, I don't.
Okay.
Not at all. In fact, you sound great. In fact, you sound better than you did before.
Better now?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
We'll wait for Jeremy to come back. There he is.
So,
Hold on, he's got to put his headset on. Let's
yeah,
make
that's
some noise.
definitely coming from Jeremy.
Yeah, because yes, I know about that. I got to fix that too. But that's a different problem. That's a hardware
Okay.
problem.
So now I'm not coming through my mic anymore. I'm coming through the mic on my computer.
Okay.
But on my recording, I'm still coming through my mic.
Okay, well that'll probably help then. So if you can save that recording on your end, that'll be huge for me. Yeah.
Yes, I'm saving it.
Okay, perfect. And Jeremy, I don't think you're hearing yourself anymore. Probably no.
No, it's good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump back into it then. Let me restart this, and back half will sound better than the first half, but that's okay. Okay. Before we move on, I guess Axel, do you have any thoughts on the Tales of the Jedi, Star Wars Bad Batch, or anything else Star Wars related before we move on to the next thing?
I am a big fan of the Star Wars franchise as a TV show
Mm-hmm.
and as TV shows. So I am excited and happy with all the different ways that they can experiment and make cartoons and animes and live action and anything, I think so far they have done great stuff. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi, it wasn't my favorite thing, but it was fun,
Sure.
I think they have to move out of the volume. I'm glad that Andor is not using that primarily. I think
It's not using it at all, I think they said, which
I
is
like that.
Yeah.
It became a crutch for them. And especially in Kenobi, you could tell that they were shooting in it.
Sure. Yes.
Like the jig is up. So, but I just love everything they're doing, man. I want them, and I want them to just keep on doing it and stop listening to, the crowds, even though
Yeah.
all publicity is good publicity. I'm
I
excited.
suppose.
I'm excited.
Yeah, the Star Wars fandom is a interesting place to be these days, but I would say that the stuff that's coming out of Star Wars is some of the best Star Wars we've had probably ever, Um the Bad Batch season 1 is an amazing series, first season of television. The Tales of Jedi is going to be great. Just more of that stuff, and Mando season 3 is picking up on this. It's building on a larger world. The only thing that I think is missing is we don't have Star Wars movies in theaters, and I think that's a shame. And then last thing, did you guys see the trailer for Werewolf by Night? This is this 1950s style black and white Halloween special that's coming to Disney Plus, and it's directed by Michael Giacchino, of course, the acclaimed composer who's probably made some of the best Hollywood music in the last 10 years. And he's directing this, and it looks so cool. Just again, you talked about, Axel, getting away from the kind of the traditional Marvel formula. This is an example of that, probably in spades. A full-on horror thing, black and white. I don't know anything about the Werewolf by Night comics, but this looks very cool, and I'm very excited for it.
Yes, I agree. I like this kind of stuff, man. I'm all for this kind of experimentation. That's why I loved comic books, guys. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like wedded. I probably had the most Batman comics, but I would just get different kind if somebody did something interesting or new. And when I was a teenager, that was when there was kind of a resurgence of like alternate comics, like that Teenage
Sure.
Mutant Ninja Turtles was actually a very popular comic book when I was a kid, and it was worth like a lot of money. I still have.
In the middle of the '90s during the boom.
No,
Is
this
that
was
yeah?
actually in the late '80s, early '90s.
Okay, so before the boom. That's
So
cool. Yeah.
when I was going when I was mainly into comics was probably from like '85 to like '92, and I went into college in '92. And once I went into college, the only thing I was into was music, women, and drugs.
And then here we are, and you just reverted back to all those old things, right?
Oh, I just never stopped. Yes,
Yeah.
I
Right.
just added Lego and Marvel's
Right.
bullshit and
Yeah.
toys and stuff.
Um.
Yeah, I love this stuff.
So anyway, that's D23. It's a bit of hit and miss. I mean, a lot of it is not aimed at me, and that's fine. But the stuff that is looks very interesting. So I am actually quite excited about what came out of that. And I just they could have put the indie trailer online. I think they should have done that. I think that's a shame. Okay, let's before we move on to television, and we'll talk about the Emmys and then wrap up. We'll do a brief agree or disagree segment. So, Axel, you are new to this, so I'll just briefly. Of course, this is a working title for the segment. We're going to find something better, I promise, one day. It's a simple question. Do you agree with the premise that is going to be about to be presented to you, or do you disagree, and why or why not?
I'm excited.
That's all. Okay, so I'm going to read from a IGN article via Variety. They're referencing a Variety interview. So, and the reason I chose this is because it includes a lot of it's a topic that's been top of mind for us lately here on the show, but also includes Brendan Fraser, who is a sweetheart. So I just wanted to mention him here. So Batgirl star Brendan Fraser was hit out at the DC film cancellation, calling it, quote, the canary in the coal mine, unquote, for the battle between streaming and theatrical feature releases. During an interview with Variety, the 53-year-old Batgirl actor explained why he was disappointed. The fans really want to see the film, he said. Leslie Grace is a dynamo. The movie was shot and conceived for a smaller screen. In this age we've come out of now between streaming services versus theatrical release, it wound up being the canary in the coal mine. Fraser was set to star in the films as the film's villain, Firefly, yada, yada, yada. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see Fraser's villain stack up against Batgirl, as the film was unceremoniously canceled back in August in the wake of a high-profile Warner Brothers Discovery merger. As such, it looks like the film's secret funeral showing is the first and only time anyone will see it. So what did we learn from this, said Fraser? Work with trusted filmmakers like Darren. He's, of course, referencing Darren Aronofsky, which he worked with, or who he worked with in the film The Whale that premiered at the Venice Film Festival. And he received a 10-minute standing ovation or something like that. These super long standing O's are getting 10 minutes is a long time. We said this the other day about the Tom Cruise thing. It's just it's silly, but
they've been doing it for years and
years.
It's
dumb. It's just an excuse to write a headline. But I do want all love and appreciation to go to Brendan Fraser. He deserves it. But that brings us back to the main point here and the agree or disagree segment, which is Batgirl's cancellation actually a canary in the coal mine for the battle between streaming and theatrical feature releases? And let me expand on that a little bit, which is to say, does the cancellation of Batgirl, and he's talking about the canary in the coal mine, meaning is it the first thing that we're going to see as a shift in what has been this kind of big move to streaming? We're going to spend all this money. We're gonna pour millions of dollars, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, into hundreds of millions of dollars into these productions, and it's all to gain subscribers, and it's worth it because that's what the end goal is, right? And Warner Brothers is saying that that's not worth it for them, which is why they canceled this movie. A part of many reasons. So do you agree that this is actually what he's saying, which is it's a canary in the coal mine for that? Or is it more a one-off and more something that's more isolated to Warner Brothers and their kind of terrible financial situation? Jeremy, I'll go to you first. What do you think?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean,
Jeremy, it's agree or disagree, not and disagree.
it's it just made it sounds like it was a content for the streaming platform, which typically is a lower budget and just not as uh, theatrical, whatever that is, right? Like what
Mm-hmm.
they made it for the subscription service to keep the subscription service, being bought by
Sure.
consumers. Um, so, and then just with Warner Brothers Discovery kind of taking over, and their kind of fight, which is just in the very early stages, so they just seem like a complete and total bad guy, is to bring that theater experience back and kind of focus on that.
Sure.
And what that kind of legacy is for Warner Brothers in particular. They kind of want to get back to that. So we just have yet to see any examples of that. We just know things are being canceled, and Batgirl is that huge domino that we've been talking about
Mm-hmm.
for a while now. It's just a major one that just looks bad no matter what.
Well, it could be worse. You could be the Flash. But we're not talking about that today. Okay, Axel, what do you think? Is this a canary in the coal mine?
Honestly, I think it is, but I think that it's gonna, as we were talking about earlier, about the way that it takes years and sometimes never, because there's a system of middlemen set up to make money, that these
Mm-hmm.
systems just don't change, right?
Yep.
And I think that right now what you have is all of these streaming services, including Netflix, who is in a huge amount of debt,
Sure.
are losing money. And
I have been forever.
yes, they
Yeah.
never were making any money, but they were making pretend money because all of the guys on Wall Street were saying, this is cool, put money into that, and then we can buy this. And hey, you want to buy some crypto too? It's all a bunch of people making money. It has zero to do with art, or I never, ever make the mistake of thinking any of the suits have any of the interest of the artists, whether, and as far as fans go, you're money.
You're the product. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we sell the product to you. That's what it is. Just like if they're peddling car parts, they don't give a
Sure.
shit. And
Yep.
and neither should they. That's not their job to give a shit. If they gave a shit, you'd get terrible movies, right?
Well, I mean, maybe not. I mean, there's the odd time where you get these,
true.
get these kind of like passion projects, and they're like, we're gonna close this out. We're gonna give you another season of a show that no one's watching, so we can have a proper ending, right?
I agree with you, but I think, and that's giving too much, right? Which we've seen so much of. So to get back to what you were saying, Jeremy, perfectly, and I've been listening to you guys talk about this, you understand what happened. It had to do with taxes, right? And what they
tax
were
write-offs
and write-offs, and that this was specifically made for the streaming service. And if they ever release it in any way, shape, or form, they lose the ability to write it off. So they have to take a hit. And then you have to go, well, did they cause a big, yeah, they kind of fucked up, right? Like, if there's one thing any of these people should learn, is don't mess with the crazy comic book people, man. You know what I'm saying? They'll come out of the woodwork. Look at the Zack Snyder. You guys have talked about this forever. The Snyderverse shit, and I mean, you literally had people. If I even on Twitter, I'm just some dude. Like, not a lot of people follow him. Like, Zack Snyder's Justice League was terrible, which I thought it was terrible. I had like 5 people be like, "You're a communist!" Like, you're like, "I'm gonna find out where you live." Like, they were just getting so up, don't mess with that kind of stuff. Do I think it's like like um a sad thing that a movie made by the guys who made Bad Boys for Life, which was horrible? Martin Lawrence was good in it though. And like another Batgirl story, is this like a terrible loss to the world? No, and it's about money. But I
Yeah,
think,
but I want to see Brendan Fraser as Firefly. What do you mean?
I mean, I don't. I could at this point in time. There's been so much of this stuff. There'll be something else that comes out next month to make people happy. But the
Sure.
answer, the go back
Yeah, Black
answer,
Adam.
there you go. Something else comes out. You know what I mean? And maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. But I do think it is a kind of canary in the coal mine to saying, hey, remember, the real thing that's running all of this is money.
Right.
Not, that The Wire started a revolution of theatrical television or something. You know what I mean? Like, don't get it twisted. The money
Well, it
is
did also do that. Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
Right.
But that's what it's about. So I think the streaming services are like, look, they're not they're not only talking about these kind of changes, but at the same time, NBC is considering losing an hour of programming at 10 o'clock. They're going to be like Fox, and prime time is only from 8 to 10, and they're not going to program the 10 o'clock hour. They're going to hand it over to affiliates.
Right.
All these cable networks that we've seen forever, like TBS, TNT, they're going to go away.
Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's
so.
a bad thing. I
I
don't
don't
know.
think it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying that there's all these changes, and as a part of that is, I think that you're going to see maybe less kind of crazy spending like this, and people making decisions based on the bottom line.
Smarter decisions, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it is a kind of a bit of a wake up call. And I don't mean to make fun. Like, if a lot of people wanted to see a Batgirl movie, and I'm sure all the people who worked on it are pissed off about it too.
100%.
Right? That was somebody's first movie.
Right? Yeah. That's
First
probably lots of
starring
people's
role.
first movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this was Leslie Grace's like star vehicle. This was
There
her
you go.
opportunity to be something big. I mean, whether that would have been true or not it's moot, because we'll never know. But it is a shame. I think you're right. I think there's where change is difficult. We're in this transitionary period. We've kind of benefited as viewers to say, like, these companies have spent so much money on stuff that has probably never made them any money at all, right? They've probably taken losses. Netflix has probably taken a loss on Stranger Things, right?
Yes.
And that show's great,
definitely,
right? And we've got the benefit of that. And Lord of the Rings, I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know how Amazon's going to recoup the cost of Lord of the Rings, but that show's the most expensive show ever made. It's certainly, the money's on screen. It's a good looking show, in my opinion. But, this is the kind of the benefit of that. If as this slowly transitions to the new norm, or, that streaming is really the there is no other avenue, as less and less people subscribe to cable, you'll probably see some of these fewer of these big swings, right? And a little bit back to kind of some cheaper programming on these types of networks, and that might not be a bad thing. You might get some of those kind of scrappy little shows that kind of that can be a little bit more endearing, and don't need to have that $1 million marketing budget behind them.
I also think that, in a way, when something like this happens, it does illustrate what you just said, Julian, which is, we've lived in a time where they've made all this crazy shit, right? Like, they took away one thing that some people wanted to see. Yeah, that's not the best PR decision, and it could hurt people's careers. But in the end, who gave them that money? Right? Like, all of this fandom stuff comes down to that.
Right.
You're talking about huge multinational corporations that have their ties to things that go way beyond.
Yeah, mythology. They own modern mythology,
No,
and
but
we
I
have
mean
and they get to sell it to us.
yeah, like Amazon is making a Lord of the Rings, but they're also like, selling server farms to North Korea and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the world is too complicated. This is the.
yes,
By the way, I don't know if you've ever watched The Good Place, but
yes, I
they make the
have.
argument that that the world is today. It's like, if you watch Netflix on Amazon, you're somehow contributing to global war in some way, and it's like, how could you possibly make? Anyway, I don't want to get caught up in the weeds here, but that is a. I don't know. I don't
Well,
want to think about that.
I like when you all talk about this and I like your opinions on it, and I think you see it in a good way. I think it's just in the end, it's the age old, like, DIY punk rock shit, which I think is where it all has to come back around to, because you look at movie theaters, you look like what brought people back to movies in like
Top
the 90s
Gun,
and
Maverick.
stuff, and
That movie's awesome.
and you know what? Hey, that is kind of a return to simplistic filmmaking, isn't it?
Well,
It's
I
like,
mean, it's. I don't think it's. I mean, it's traditional filmmaking, and I'm sure
dude, it's a
Tom Cruise is going to sell you
GoPro.
on that. But yeah, I don't
It's
know.
like a GoPro and a jet, right? That's what
Yeah,
it is.
all you need is a jet. How hard can it
It's
be?
But that's kind of the beauty of
Yeah.
simplicity, and I think that I that's what I kind of, man. There was a disappointing thing today. Is there was a woman who made a film called, I can't remember what it was. You probably read about this, Julian. It was called like the Something Joker or something, and
Mm,
it was like a kind of play on the Joker, but it was her own personal story, and then
sure.
it got pulled from a film festival. And my hope would be that they would actually buy it and let her use the Joker, and like, let
Well, yeah, fan film
creative
stuff.
things
I
come
mean, I
out of
get
it.
like everything's a. I don't know. I haven't actually heard about that, but everything is its own spin on something that's already been done. So, it reminds me of how Nintendo likes to crack down on people using their stuff, even though it's probably helps them in the in the long run. So, whatever. Like you said, multinational corporations. We're all just at the behest of them at any given moment. Okay, let's move on to TV. The Emmys were on Monday night or something like that. When were the Emmys? It was,
Monday.
yeah. Is it not normally a Sunday night thing? Am I crazy in thinking that? I was shocked that it was on Monday night, but
I don't know. I can't remember. I think they sometimes mix it up.
well, anyway, so it's an award show, so we'll just watch some celebrities pat themselves on the back. But at the same time, it's nice to see what's getting the recognition for being good in the TV world. So I'll read from this Variety article. The 74th annual Emmy Awards were in the books following a tight 3-hour telecast on NBC that saw several repeat winners, along with quite a few surprise upsets. During Monday's Kenan Thompson hosted ceremony. By the way, who's Kenan Thompson? Should I know who that is?
Saturday Night Live.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess NBC.
Definitely know who that is.
Yeah.
Is he one of the longest standing, like?
No, he is the longest ever. Yeah.
SNL guy. Okay.
Yep.
So during that show, Apple TV's Ted Lasso won Best Comedy Series, deservedly so, for the second year in a row. HBO Max's The White Lotus took Top Limited Series. That actually is surprising because I've heard good things, but I didn't hear like that good of things. HBO's Succession grabbed the highest honor of the night with Outstanding Drama Series. And then earlier in the show, Netflix's Squid Game star Lee Jung-jae became the first Asian actor to ever win a lead actor in a drama and the fourth Asian person to ever win an acting Emmy, while HBO's Euphoria star Zendaya became the first black woman to win a lead actress in a drama and the youngest two-time winner of any Emmy in history. So that's pretty cool. I'll read through some of these categories. Stop me if there's something that you guys want to mention, okay?
Okay.
So drama series, Succession was the winner. I have not seen Succession, but when I hear people talk about the show, it's like listening to cultists talk about their cult. So
Everybody's in a cult these days. Man.
yeah, you guys have any thoughts on Succession? Have either of you guys watched this?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay.
I've tried many times to get into it. I can't crack the nut, and I think it's because I'm not exactly a dark comedy guy.
It's a dark. See, I don't even know what kind of. So it's a
Yeah.
drama series is the category it's in, but of course the
So
Emmys it's hard to say.
I've heard a lot of people say that they think it is most definitely a sardonic,
Okay.
like dark comedy.
Okay. Well, it beat out such shows as Better Call Saul, Euphoria,
Sad.
Squid Game, Stranger Things, Yellow Jackets, Ozark. So, Severance. By the way, Severance. Oh, I don't know if it won anything. We'll see. But
That was
man, I
fun.
love that show. Love that show. Okay, moving on. Comedy series. Ted Lasso won this. Again, I timed my subscription to Apple TV Plus specifically to send Apple a signal that says I'm only here so I can watch the show. And then I ended up watching, of course, Severance after that. But I think the signal was sent. Ted Lasso is amazing. It is my favorite comedy show in production these days. It beat out such things as Only Murders in the Building. Of course, we talked about that show. Great. What We Do in the Shadows, also great. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I didn't know that show was still on, but I've heard good things. Hacks, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Barry, and Abbott Elementary on ABC.
And Young Sheldon.
No, I think that's a different category. But no, Young Sheldon somehow didn't get an acknowledgement here. Somehow crazy, right?
Have you watched For All Mankind on Apple?
People have told me to watch it. I hear it's a slow burn, and I have a really hard time getting into shows that are a slow burn.
I think you would like it.
Okay,
I don't think it's
well,
that
I'll give it a
slow.
shot. You know what? Here's the thing. I'm no longer subscribed to Apple TV Plus because there was nothing that it was kind of drying up there for a bit after Severance. So I do need something to get me back in. I'll probably watch it around the same time as Ted Lasso season 3, so I can like double down on my subscription, as it were. Okay, limited anthology series. The White Lotus takes this one.
Nice.
Pam and Tommy beat out Pam and Tommy, Inventing Anna, The Dropout, and Dope Sick. The White Lotus. This is like a murder mystery. Is this another one of those?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's like it's a mystery. It's by Mike White. You know Mike White? He's a great director. He wrote School of Rock. He came onto the scene originally with a film called Chuck and Buck. He's an interesting dude. He also has been a contestant on both Survivor and The Amazing Race. Survivor multiple times. You don't know all this about Mike White?
I don't know. And this is a little download I've never even heard.
Look up Mike White. He is a crazy looking dude as well. He's so funny. I love The White Lotus because it's Mike White. That's the oh, I'm sorry, I just dropped my mouse on the ground.
All good.
To make a big noise. But it's a weird show. I think a lot of people don't talk about how weird it is. Maybe they didn't pick up on it, or I think a lot of people just watch an HBO show and they like assume some little arty weirdness is going to be a part of it.
Sure.
But I love White Lotus. Did you watch it, Jeremy?
No, I have not.
Is this an HBO or HBO Max show?
HBO.
Okay, well then it's safe for another season then.
Yes, it is an HBO show.
Yeah. Okay. Lead actor in a drama series. Like I said before, Lee. I'm not sure if I'm saying their name right. Lee Jung-jae, from Squid Game. I watched the first episode of Squid Game and then forgot to watch the rest. Now Jeremy's murdered me on this show for not continuing with it.
Well,
but
I mean, like, I obviously watched the least amount between you and I, but like with the awards that we just kind of mentioned off the top, like the only two shows I basically watched were Euphoria and Squid Game.
So you feel like you've made the right choices?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are you a big, Euphoria for me is like, you remember the movie Kids?
I don't know. I do not know the movie Kids.
Okay. this is like
Look
you
this
got
up.
to go back into history here. Kids was like the original kids fucking movie, right? Like
1995
bunch of
drama
kids
indie
get
film.
together. One kid, they have a bunch of sex and drugs in New York. They're like 14, 15 years old. They ride skateboards. Kid gets like
Right.
HIV. He gives a girl HIV, doesn't tell her. It's fucked
Rosario
up.
Dawson is in this movie. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, it started a lot of career. Yeah, it's Harmony Korine co-wrote it. It's a fucking crazy movie, and I feel like Euphoria is like a bunch of kids fucking each other in high school, and I'm almost 50 years old, and
It's
I
a little
don't think
off-putting.
I don't think I should be watching that. No, it just I don't give a shit,
Yeah.
honestly.
Right.
I kind of
That's
feel like
fair.
you fucking kids, you're lucky to be fucking in high school. Stop with all the drama. I wish I
Right.
was fucking a girl that looked like that in high school. You know what I'm
um,
talking about? Come on.
I sure no. I mean,
They're
it's a
living
kind of a
these they're
fantasy
all
land.
rich
It
and
seems like it's a fantasy world
yeah,
to some
it's
degree.
well,
Yeah.
I think it is a show that it definitely exists in magical realism. And I saw the first episode and I got that right off the bat. This is in no way supposed to be like a real. Am I wrong about that,
Well, I
Jeremy?
think I mean, yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah,
I don't. That you're the one to answer that.
it's you guys couldn't be further away from the truth, but that's fine. You've only watched one episode, I
Oh,
guess.
damn. All right. Drop the knowledge.
um,
Tell us what do
is
you mean?
yeah.
How are we
What's
wrong?
the why should we be watching this show,
Yeah.
Jeremy?
uh, I don't know. I've heard the critique of the kids sex thing. I don't really I don't go into that show with that kind of perspective.
You're not looking for titillation, right? That's not
Yeah,
what you're
like
there
I
Okay.
just
for.
I
think
get
it's
it. I get it.
a very intense look into this life, especially of Zendaya's character, and it's just very well made and very well acted, and just a cool drama that isn't your stereotypical Degrassi, or even though there's some weight to certain things that may be included in here, and it's just very stylized and just very cool, but very deep. And with Zendaya winning back to back, like
Sure.
there are scenes here where it's like, how is she doing? Like, how are you doing this right now? How are you pulling out all these emotions, affecting everyone around you, all the storylines? It's just incredible work.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Fair
I
enough.
guess yeah. I mean, I can. You know what, Jeremy? I respect that, and I remember in the first episode that I did think that the mental health stuff, right, and her being having like issues. I thought that's good stuff, and I think that's stuff that's good to be out there. But like I said, I guess for me, I feel like that that is kind of a specific journey of that age, and I feel like maybe that's not a journey that right now I'm interested in taking. You know, maybe when my son
Mhm.
gets older, I'll be like, hey, I should watch this because I'm an old fart and I'm losing touch with what you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I can see that. Maybe you have a point there, but you know,
Jeremy.
I know she's a great actress though.
Yeah. I mean, well, she's good in everything,
She's
and that's
pretty.
the thing. Yeah.
She's like a Disney product. She's been like, she came out the womb singing and dancing, and right,
Right.
So
like
young, like only like 25, I think, and
yeah.
just setting records.
Um, for the Squid Game win, what,
Oof,
how, without spoiling anything, I
love it.
guess.
So happy that he won.
What about his performance is like stands out so much to you here?
It really. I guess it's his transformation. I guess like you really get to know who the character is and what he's all about, and it kind of centers around someone who's just kind of like out on their luck, just like down
Bit of
and
a
out.
fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some relatability in any point in time in someone's life to that, and just what he's thrust into and how he navigates it is just so endearing and cool. Like he's such a nice guy that comes through, and you see it within the Squid Game itself, and just week to week seeing who will survive and how anyone gets to the next challenge. It was just fascinating. Could not wait to sit down. Maybe it wasn't a week to week though. It might have been a binge.
Yeah, I
But
gotta
yeah,
watch this show,
I got
man.
watched a little bit later, but I just could not wait to see the next episode. Every episode ended with a nice little cliffhanger of what to expect in the next one. A lot of twists and turns, and the acting from this part of the world is just incredible.
It's
I'm
Korean, right?
big advocate
Yes.
of subtitles here. It's one thing I learned through this experience as well as Parasite, the movie
Gotta
that
watch the
won.
sub son. Yeah, I
Yeah,
I made the mistake of watching with dubbed
yeah. So
audio,
Oh,
not
it's
ready
just
for
a
so
that.
oh
yeah.
man,
So the
that's so
inflection, just
tough.
all the work really comes through, and I
Yeah.
just found myself just completely hooked with everything going on with Squid Game. Like I cannot wait to see what the creator has in store for a second season.
All right, all
See,
right, all
I
right.
like when Jeremy talks.
Yeah, me too. He doesn't do it enough.
Well,
Okay,
can
so
I say about
yeah,
something?
go ahead. Yeah.
May I interject here? I like what you had to say, and I agree with you about subtitles, but this is the problem that I have. I find actually that if it is if they are so they're speaking Korean, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I in Asian the translation it's hard. The translation between English and most Asian languages are that it takes longer to say what they are trying to communicate in an Asian language than it does in English. So by the time you read what's on the screen, you can look up and they're still talking,
I
right?
kind of like that though because
No, I'm going
I
to say I
watched
like
with
that,
yeah,
Julian. Yes.
yeah.
In reverse, I find it hard to watch Spanish because in most Spanish speaking countries,
Faster.
they speak faster. Exactly. So by the time you can't really look up.
Mm-hmm.
So I also found in German it's about the same
Right.
because Dark. If you guys have seen Dark, one of the best shows ever made on Netflix. Have you
I've
seen
not.
Dark?
I've not.
No,
Okay,
heard
It's a
about it.
Dark.
German show.
Yes, it's a German time travel show. One more time travel. The best
Yeah.
time travel television show ever made, without a doubt. There's no debating it. You guys will love Dark. You should watch it. You will love it. And it's so emotional and beautiful, and you'll absolutely love Dark. But it's about the same. So you're kind of fighting with it. But Dark has good voice actors. But I've been watching Tokyo Vice on HBO
Yes,
Max.
I've heard good things. Yeah.
Very good and easy too because Japanese. That's why Kurosawa. All I've watched, all his films were easy to watch because there's not as much speaking, but also
Mm-hmm.
you can look up.
You have time to kind of take in the
Yeah,
performance as well. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I don't think that's anything that I've consciously thought about, but I think you're absolutely right, which is that because I watch the subtitles on a lot of the time, even with English stuff, so that I feel like I'm not missing anything. But
yes,
I sometimes catch myself just reading the dialogue and not
it's
watching the show.
yeah. And I'm a big I used to be a cameraman and do a lot of that's what I did for like 20 years video work and editing and camera work and it's hard for me. I want to
Right. You feel
look
like
at the
you're
frame.
not looking at what I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on here quickly. Lead actress in a comedy series. This went to Jean Smart for Hacks.
Good for her.
Lead. Yeah, I've only heard good things about Hacks. She beat out Issa Rae, Elle Fanning, Kaylee Cuoco, I think.
Cuckoo.
Cuoco? I don't
Kakayoko.
know. Yeah.
That Issa Rae, she's so gorgeous, man. I always found it funny in that show how she played the kind of nerdy, and like her friend was like the pretty one, and
mhm.
I only watched like I think I watched 3 seasons
Of Insecure.
of Insecure, but
Yeah.
then it kind of lost me. There's just so much TV.
Sure. Yeah, that's the other thing. There is too much TV. Lead actress in a drama series that went to Zendaya. We talked about beat out
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon for The Morning Show, Sandra Oh for Killing Eve. I don't think Reese Witherspoon deserved to be on this list. I like The Morning Show, but I don't think her performance is award-winning quality. Melanie Linsky, Yellow Jackets, Laura
I
Linney
love
for
her.
Ozark.
God, I have a big crush on her. I think everybody does.
Laura Linney?
No, Melanie Linsky.
Oh, for Yellow Jackets. And Jodie Comer for Killing Eve. 2 Killing Eves on there. And then let's just skip through some of the other ones here. Writing for comedy series, Abbott Elementary. Lead actor in a comedy series, Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. Well deserved.
I
Although,
heard you like that show.
yeah, also beats out Martin Short and Steve. Martin Short and
know.
Steve Martin for Only Murders in the Building. I think Steve Martin is doing some of his best work in Only Murders in the Building. I honestly, amazing actor, but I just can't get over this like subtle brilliance of the work that he's doing on the show. I just think it's so good.
Steve Martin is one talented motherfucker. You know, he's a novelist.
He can play the banjo.
He has a band, the Soggy Bottom something Remainders, I think it's called,
Sure.
or something. And he writes novels. That film he did, who was it Claire Danes who was in it? Was it called Shop Girl or something? I can't remember.
I don't know.
It was like more of a drama. He was so talented, but my favorite, Jeremy, do you watch Only Murders in the Building?
No, I don't watch that.
Are you a big what kind of comedy do you like? Do you know you're just not into it, or
It's comedy's just peaked for me already with Dumb and Dumber
It just
well,
nothing
I love
beats
it because
that.
it's New York, you know, and
Right.
I mean, I grew up in Jersey and I lived in Manhattan and I lived in a building like that, and so it's like I love that. But
It's like
for
I
me,
hear that for New Yorkers, it's a whole other
Yeah,
experience.
of
So I
course,
can't really.
man.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Once you live in New York, or if like I was saying, I grew up in the area going to New York since I was a little kid. I could see the Twin Towers from like up my street from in Jersey. But
Mhm.
it, you know, once you just watch shows because they're in New York.
Right.
I
Fair
will
enough.
definitely, like, if there's a movie and it's like, oh, it's set in Manhattan and they're walking around. Okay, I'll watch it because then I can.
Yeah,
My
Made in
wife,
Manhattan.
we can be like, hey, remember that street? Yeah, you know, like
That's
part of
fun.
New York is walking around all the time, you know.
Right.
So, but long story short, I love Steve Martin, but to me, the greatest ever, Martin Short. I think Martin Short is, and
Really?
he's a Canadian.
Yes. Yes, he is.
All the best, all the people,
All the best comedians. Well, and yeah, you could say that people.
My
That's fair.
entire childhood, the only guy that was American were the only two guys that were like the funny Americans were was Bill Murray is American, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he's from Chicago.
Yeah, Bill Murray. And
But he's like
where's
from
Dan
Chicago is
Aykroyd
like
from?
basically Canada. Sorry.
That's true. The Second City thing,
Yeah, exactly.
the connection, right?
Um,
Isn't Toronto and Chicago both were considered kind of like a second city,
sister
New
cities.
York?
Yeah, I mean they basically stand in for them often in film. That's fair.
No, I mean the like the troop Second City, right?
Oh, okay.
I think that comes. I think the word wasn't that in originally in Chicago, but I think that Toronto too was known as they call because it's like the
Yeah,
New
I'm
York
seeing
was
that
the
here. It's
hub.
the second city, Chicago, and then there's also
Yes,
Toronto.
but
Yeah.
then I think it was also Toronto, so it was like they kind of got together because they were like, we're not New York, you know?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
I
they can
grew
be
up,
something else.
yeah, like I grew up on a public access TV show called Rascals Comedy Hour. That was a Rascals Comedy Club, and there was about 5 different comedy clubs in New Jersey. There was one in like South Orange, and there was one in like down the shore, Jersey Shore,
Mhm.
and I
The
got
Jersey Shore.
the Jersey Shore. I got to see all these young people from New York kind of come up. But then again, when I watched like Saturday Night Live and the big stuff, it was all Canadian. Like
Right?
it's all like
Yeah.
Martin Short and like
Jim
the
Carrey.
what was the show that the famous show?
The one that just had a revival on Amazon. Is that what you're thinking of?
No, not
The
Kids
sketch
in the
show?
Hall.
Not Kids in the Hall? Okay.
But before the Kids in the Hall.
Oh.
SCTV.
Oh yes, yeah. That's another.
That's Second
another
City
classic show.
TV.
Yeah. You're not going to argue with. You're not going to hear us arguing with you about whether Canadians are hilarious or not. They all
Guys,
have.
I
They
love
have
Canada. You know, like there's a lot of Americans, you know, that fantasize about Canada, just like it's
Right.
So
Whether or not
just
whether or not
nice.
what they believe is true or not. Fair enough. Oh.
Of course, everything. Grass is always greener, right?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, Jason Sudeikis beats out Martin Short and Steve Martin, but also Donald Glover from Atlanta, and I've only heard the best things at Barry and Bill Hader for Barry.
It's hard to win when you're only in half the episodes of a season.
Yeah, that's fair. And then Nicholas Hoult, also for The Great, a show that I adore, The Great.
I know a lot of people who love that show.
It's a great show. Nicholas Hoult is very good on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's a tough category. Jason Sudeikis, though, very well deserved. And then I'll just see if there's anything else here. Lead actress in a limited series, Amanda Seyfried for The Dropout. Lead actress in a limited series, Jennifer Coolidge for The White Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
Variety talk series went to The Last Week Tonight instead of The Daily Show like it used to go to every single year. Variety sketch show. Guess what? Saturday Night Live wins again because literally there's two categories. There's two. It's a black lady sketch show and Saturday Night Live. Those are literally the only two entrants in that category.
What is your guys' connection to Saturday Night Live?
I don't really have one, to be honest. I don't really have a touchstone. I know there's really funny classic stuff from like the I don't know. I'm trying to think of the era. What it would be. Jeremy, when I guess like that Dumb and Dumber era would be kind of when
Will Ferrell.
Yeah, the Will Ferrell era, I guess, would be kind of where I have that connection. Jeremy, do you have a touchstone for SNL?
Maybe the same era. I mean, whatever age I was, like if you weren't doing anything on a Saturday night, I just remember being kind of cool to tune in to see what they were up to and maybe have a laugh. So yeah.
We watched we went on a football trip once on a bus, and then we watched I think Will Ferrell's best of SNL. Very good stuff, right?
More cowbell. Right.
Well, and then, like the Goulet, Robert
Yes.
Goulet, that stuff is so good. So yeah, I mean that's where my heart lies.
I love Saturday Night Live, and I really grew up on it. I mean, when I was a kid, was Eddie Murphy. I mean, I saw the original. I wasn't too much. I mean, I was born in '74. When did it start? Did it start in '74?
You're asking the wrong guy.
But I'm looking forward to Lorne Michaels retiring and them getting some new people in for that show.
Well, hey, Lorne Michaels brought back Kids in the Hall, so
the guy has done great stuff. I just think it's time to let someone else.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair.
Kids in the Hall is all-time greatest. I'm a huge Kids in the Hall fan. I got to see them live when they first reformed in what was it, the late 90s or early 2000s. Mm-hmm. I got to see them in New York.
Have you watched the news? Have you watched the new stuff? I thought it was very funny.
I have not watched all of it, but I watched a bunch of it, and yes, it's still them. They're still.
I just don't they just keep coming up. The joke with the delivery doctor who has only a 10% drop rate is got to be one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's so good.
They're so demented. And
okay, let's. I don't think. I think we touched on the big ones. So let's move on. We'll quickly talk about a couple other things here. Halo Season 2 has started production in Iceland. I didn't like this first season very much, but I am interested to see what they can do with it if they, as a continuation of that. House of the Dragon creator says that they have a fairly good plan, quote unquote, and have a sense as to where and when the show will end. Meanwhile, George R. R. Martin says that he fought for at least 10 seasons of Game of Thrones. Whether or not that's, how much actual work he put into trying to make that happen is unclear versus, whether or not he was, how much he was kind of divorced from the show at that point.
There was a great interview that History of Westeros did with
Mm-hmm.
George with Railroad, and he was talking about how towards the end they really weren't returning it. They weren't even returning his calls and stuff.
Well, he was writing episodes in the first couple seasons, and then that even stopped. Yeah,
he never had a contract. So basically, what he's saying is, I gave them the IP, and they
And then they
honestly
messed it up.
they could have done whatever they want. And, well, they didn't have much of a choice. He didn't write the books.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the old catch-22. It's like,
Kinda
well,
true.
they sign up to adapt a series, and then there was nothing to adapt, and then they have to come up with their own stuff. And I mean, that
But
being
not
said, it's a
him.
bit of a forced, unforced error, because regardless of whether or not they had the finished manuscript from George R. R. Martin, they had enough information to know where it was going, and they didn't have to rush the final 2 seasons, which they did.
That
Right?
you're-
They shortened them.
I
They
agree with
rushed
you.
to the end, and they didn't
But-
have to do that.
But you know what, though, Julian? The thing is this, though. They didn't have to, but they're human beings, and they were sick of doing the fucking show.
Well, yeah, I guess
it-
that's fair. Yeah.
It was the biggest production. And I say this, and I've yet for someone to correct me, or I read about it. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm wrong when I say this. It was the largest film production in the history of the world. It
That's
was
probably
in the
true. I
most
think at its heights,
Yeah.
yeah, that's they were like they turned a whole quarry into an ice lake.
Dude, they were shooting
yeah.
simultaneously 3 main production units.
Yeah, across
For
the
House of the
world.
Dragon,
Yeah.
they don't have an A and a B. They have 2 A's. They're
Yeah.
shooting 2 things at once. So it's a huge production, and
Totally.
and for Game of Thrones, it was all over the world.
Well, I
used
think they
real
let them
sets.
again. These are unforced errors because they let it get out of hand. It didn't
I'm not
have to
gonna
be that way.
disagree with you. I just think
you
it's
know?
a huge thing that it's more than just 2 people involved.
I'm not. Oh yeah, no, it's more than. I'm not. It's
Yeah.
not just on Benioff and Weiss. I
No,
don't.
I think it's weird
don't
when
think that's
people
fair.
get too into like Dan and Dave are horrible. Like go on Twitter and people are ready to murder them or something.
Well, I think they're smart to
little
take a
weird.
break from
Yeah.
public eye. I
They're
think
gonna-
that is a smart move on their part.
They're going to do next is a book series that I love. I don't know if you guys
That's
have-
completed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's completed too.
Yeah, that's good.
It's called The 3 Body Problem. It's the what's it again? The stories of Earth's past or Earth's remembrance.
I've heard
the
this
series is
term
called.
before, but I don't know if it's in relation to the book or not. The 3 Body Problem, but that
It
is cool.
probably is.
Okay.
It's
Alright.
a great series, and if you all love sci-fi and weird shit, and it basically has every sci-fi, pretty much almost every sci-fi concept you could ever think of is involved in this story that spans many, I don't want to spoil, but like thousands of years.
Okay. Isn't that kind of like what's
So-
that show on Apple TV? That the
Foundation.
The Foundation, which is kind of like always considered unadaptable, very hard to do. I thought that
Yeah.
first season of that show was also pretty good. It also
loved
covers
it.
thousands of years or hundreds of
loved
years.
it.
Pretty cool.
The writer of 3 Body Problem, I think, is it's books like Foundation that kind of gave him the
Influence.
idea
Sure.
to do this. Yeah.
So anyway, that's House of the Dragon. Just a tidbit that we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But Netflix is also hosting another Tadum event on September 24th. Got to be the worst name for any of these types of like online events ever, but
It's silly.
it is. But hey, we'll get more about The Witcher and all that kind of stuff on that as well.
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
yeah. His little flair at the end of that is so funny. I
love that
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
man.
GoldenEye, this is a little miscellaneous thing I just wanted to mention.
Ooh.
GoldenEye 64 is getting a remaster for Xbox and a re-release on Nintendo Online for its 25th anniversary. 25th anniversary for that game. Very hard to 25 years sounds like a long time because it is. But feels like yesterday we were playing that game in our basements. The one thing about this though is kind of annoying is that this remaster by Rare, which is 4K, smooth frame rates, dual stick, all that kind of stuff, only coming to Xbox, and then the version that's coming to Nintendo Online to their online service, but the expansion pack, so it's like their extra expensive one, is just a port of the original game to their N64 emulator. And like, this is where Nintendo really loses me because this game has deserved this treatment for a long time, and it's crazy that it's coming to Xbox and not, obviously it was on the N64, so I think that's just absolutely wild. Jeremy, would you buy an Xbox for this?
No.
No. Okay. Would you pay for it on your Switch for the version that's on there?
I mean, it'll still have online play on the Switch, so maybe.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. The GoldenEye 64 thing on Xbox Live, next to the Perfect Dark stuff, that's like a perfect pairing. Mwah, chef's kiss. Okay. Anyway, Axel, unless you have any thoughts on GoldenEye 64.
Past my generation,
Sure.
The first gaming system I ever had, gentlemen, was Pong.
Well, that is impressive because that's basically the first.
Yes,
doesn't get any earlier than that, really.
My father was a bartender, and he ended up running a place in New Jersey called the Manor, and a guy couldn't pay his bill, and he said, my father was like, well, you're going to have a problem here. You can't pay your bill. And he's like, hey, I'll give you one of these video game systems. He worked for the company.
Oh, he worked for it. That's so crazy.
And he brought it home and gave it to us. And then I had Atari, and then I had Sega, not Nintendo, Sega Master System and Genesis. And then I got back into video games later with Nintendo 64, but I didn't buy a Nintendo 64 until I think maybe, I don't know when it came out, but I bought one in like 2001 or something, or 2000.
That would have been like the middle of its life cycle. Okay. We're close to the end of its life cycle.
Okay.
I think.
And then I got into the Switch. My son got me back into all of this shit, and he loves. And then I brought out all my old systems, so we have like a 64, a Wii, a Switch.
That's awesome.
So I'm not in, but GoldenEye I missed. I know people love it. But what I'm so excited about, I want to say, because I know you guys sometimes talk about video games, is the Breath of the Wild sequel.
Yeah.
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that's coming in May of 2023. And this looks amazing. And to me, it's funny you said it's been 25 years. And then when this was announced today, I literally sent my son a message. He doesn't have a phone, but he has like a T-Mobile watch that you can like call Daddy and Mommy if you need to. And I sent him a message to it while he was at school. And I was like, oh my God, Lachlan, look, the Zelda.
You got to leave school to watch this trailer.
Because for him, he's 10, right?
Sure. That's like the best time for that.
He's waited his whole life for the sequel.
Yeah, right.
Breath of the Wild, right? So this is such a huge thing for him. And he can't, like, he was saying it to my wife. He's like, Mom, did you hear? Breath of the Wild is coming out. Like, I love Breath. I think Breath of the Wild is one of the best video games ever
It's a
made.
Perfect video game. That game got me through a very long trip. And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get into the sequel to the same degree. I'll be playing it much more on the TV this time. I was very much on the handheld last time, so it'll be interesting. That'll be a bit of a different experience.
I almost did none of it, and my son did it both. He played the game all the way through like 6 or 7 times.
That's unheard of. I can't even. I don't. How the game's so long? I don't know. Well, you got lots of time when you're a kid.
It's kids, you know what I mean? Like, but
sure.
And then we got the add-ons, and he's got like the motorcycle now, and like all that kind of stuff. I love that game. So you must be excited. Are you into this game, Jeremy? Do you love Breath of the Wild?
Not really. I'm not. I don't really dive into the Zelda games. Only on the handhelds.
Oh, okay.
This is a handheld. What do you mean?
True.
But I knew what he meant.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so last little bit, and then we'll wrap up here. We talked about She-Hulk, so I'm not going to mention that again. I will mention Cobra Kai in terms of what we've been watching. The I don't even know what season we're on. The most recent season of Cobra Kai is back, and I'll just continue to. Yeah, I think that's right. I'll continue to sing its praises. It somehow manages to take the cheesiness that is the 80s karate movie, that is the Karate Kid, and all of its sequels and their deep lore somehow, and bring it into the modern day and treat it with somehow this perfect balance between cheesiness that feels appropriate, right? It's like these like life lessons about trusting in yourself and doing the right thing and all that kind of stuff, but it's shot and done in this kind of way that feels like a modern version of the Karate Kid, with these characters that are there's probably too many characters, to be honest. There's a lot of like like people's kids and their friends
Kids
and
having
like
kids.
well, it's not kids having kids quite yet, but there is the dating, there's like high school drama stuff, but like largely speaking, I just think it's really crazy how they keep pulling characters out of obscurity from these old Karate Kid movies and bringing them into this modern show. And then the way that they use these flashbacks to these movies, it's very sparingly, but the way they do it makes it feel like you're a part of this like bigger world. I think it's just super entertaining. Do I think it's like the best show on TV? No. But I think it's like, if you like those Karate Kid movies and you're willing to kind of like accept them for what they are, this show is doing a brilliant job of that. I highly recommend Cobra Kai. I watched a couple episodes of A League of Their Own on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously like a reimagining of the film from, I don't know, the 90s, I think. And I like that first movie a lot. This new show, one of the main characters is Janet from A Good Place, and the character Janet. And she's in this. She's really good in it. The one thing I like the show. It looks great. It's way funnier than I thought it would be. It's freaking hilarious. And it's kind of treating the show with a little bit more the concept, a little bit more seriousness. It's kind of exploring what was the experience for the black characters at that time. They're dealing with like some LGBTQ stuff in there, and that all makes sense. But there is something about the way that the characters speak and interact and deal with some of these issues that feels a little anachronistic. It's like it feels like modern people play acting in this era, and I think that's a problem.
I'm glad you said that, pal, because I watched the first episode and I felt the same way. I felt that the tone, I felt it was at odds with itself. And I really like I can't remember her name. Is Abby Lincoln? Is it? She was in Broad City, and she's the star of the show. And I think she was like an executive producer of it as well. I heard an interview with her, but I watched the first episode and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch any more of it. Maybe they can work it out,
Sure.
With more in the season or whatever, but I just
Abby Jacobson.
I'm sorry, yeah. But I just found it to be maybe also kind of, I don't know, maybe treading some ground that's already been tread in a way.
It's not really saying anything new, I don't think.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of ideas put together instead of its own thing.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
I think that is fair.
She's great though. Broad City. Did you guys ever? I don't know if you ever watched Broad City.
I've heard good things. I have not seen it.
Yeah, that took place in New York too. They were like,
well, no wonder you like it so much. And then I guess just before we wrap up here, and I do want to wrap up, which is just to say I want to dive into Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power in a little bit more depth. So we're going to need to spend more time on that in another episode. But I'll just say that I am loving this show so far. Every episode feels like another opportunity to sit down and kind of dip into that world. Every time you watch those movies, Lord of the Rings movies, it's kind of a exploration of a whole new place. And this feels like, hey, we just get to watch a Lord of the Rings 1 hour movie every week. Sorry, and I think that in and of itself is worth it. I think the performances are great. The money's on the screen. It's really awesome. And then obviously same thing for House of Dragon. I think it's very good. The performances are also next level good there. So
I so wish that I shared your enthusiasm, my friend, and I'm definitely going to watch all of the Lord of the Rings TV show.
But you're gonna trudge through it.
Well, I'm not gonna trudge in so much as I'm probably gonna fall asleep in about the middle of the show, which I did 3 times in a row now. And it's not that I don't want to shit on the show, because quite frankly, like you, I love this world, and I I even like the Hobbit movies. They weren't
Oh,
that
those movies are
great,
bad.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to my friend today, and I was like, it's like everyone forgot that Bilbo was a prick and Frodo was a fun, good guy who had a great heart. Like that's
Mhm.
like there's a reason why The Hobbit was a little book and The Lord of the Rings
Right.
was
A 3
huge
novel. Yeah.
volumes,
Sure.
But I love it all, man, and I'm a fan of the lore and everything, and I just think that they just haven't dialed it in. And you know what? They're going to get a chance because this thing is going for like 5 seasons.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yes, whether or not we want it to or not, it is going to continue.
Yep.
And I do want to say we should mention, as you might put, like the fervor about like diversity casting or whatever is so silly.
It is silly.
It's I mean, you're talking about a magical realm. People
I don't even really want to talk about it because
it's so silly.
It doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense. That
But I did want to say this.
I don't want to give it any air.
I agree with you. I agree with that sentiment. But I do think it's worth mentioning because I do think that there are some valid critiques of the show that are perhaps being ignored. And I only hope because of the stupidity of the other side. And I only hope that the creators are listening enough to some critiques of it.
I don't know. The creators, I think, seem to be pretty sharp. I don't think that they're gonna miss those things.
This is like their first show.
Yeah, I don't. But they brought. See, the thing is, here's the thing. They brought in all the right people. So, in my opinion, as long as they continue to do that and lean on the right talent and the people who made the original films great, which they have a lot of those same people there, I think they'll be fine. Yeah,
I hope you're right because I want to love it, and I hope they and also this isn't going to be the only Lord of the Rings show they make.
Well, probably not, but they have to buy rights to something else because the appendix is not going to be from the Lord of the Rings is not going to be the enough to make a whole new show. But that's a whole other thing.
You know, they make a show Star Wars like in between somebody taking a shit. They're like, this takes place in between.
The 5 minutes between Darth Vader being here and 5 minutes. Yeah, that's fair.
Darth Vader shit, and then here's a prequel, and then he wiped his ass. And now,
yeah. Right. Well, on that lovely note, I know you wanted to talk about The Patient. We're gonna have to wait till you're on next time, Axel. But
it's
we're
a
out
great
of time.
show. Check it out on Hulu.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. That's it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Axel, for being here today. You wanted to give yourself and your program a little plug?
Yeah, you could check us out at DVR Podcast .com. We're covering House of the Dragon. We do Mayor of Kingstown, and we did Westworld and a whole bunch of other stuff. And thanks for having me. I appreciate you letting me talk. And Jeremy, you're awesome. Julian, you're awesome. You guys are great. I love this show. I love what you do. Keep doing it. The small screen Star Wars. Rock on. My Canadian
Thanks, Axel.
brothers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and likewise to your show. I definitely listen on a regular basis. So, if you're not listening and you're a TOB fan, go head over there and check it out. Well, we'll be back in typically about 2 weeks. I'm hoping to do some small screen Star Wars stuff to catch up on some of that news. I'll have to touch base with Rachel, but look for more TOB very soon. And until then, we'll talk to you then. Take care.